I even might talk
That
to
one's
her.
I wanted the same thing to suggest what you said. I think we want to make it very. It's gonna be hard because it is.
It's true.
It's just, we have maybe put a fence on it. There's ways to do it. But we need a family area.
But yeah, we need to really put some in there, not just tell them, because they told them they were going to way back 5 years ago.
And that's what we want.
Yeah.
We can make that decision.
Yeah.
There's a bigger one.
Oh, sure. Okay. Thank you.
No idea what time
Well,
it is.
but I think that's really a discussion for tonight, because tonight we're talking about, maybe we're talking about.
Well, we're talking about.
And that decision's already made.
Well, I know, but that's what I mean. Like, who made that decision? Because those residents came and asked me, and I said I don't agree with it. And I thought we were gonna make that decision, like whether or not to park out. But apparently we don't make that decision. So I want to know who gets to decide that we're dismantling
We'll
the
never
park.
find out, but I'm sure it's part of
Well, I know, but is that right? Is that
I'm
their
not saying
decision?
it's right.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I
I'm
think it's
gonna
the right
ask.
decision. I think it's the right decision.
But was it made by the right people? What I'm asking. I like to get to the bottom of those things.
6:30, should we start? Welcome to our Rexburg City Council meeting for April 3rd. Mayor Merrill's out of town, so I'll be conducting the meeting tonight. I'd like to start our meeting at this time by asking Councilmember Reeser will give us the prayer, and Councilmember Eric Erickson will give us the pledge.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful at this time for the opportunity we have to meet together as a city council and as citizens of Rexburg, and we ask thy blessings be upon us, that thy spirit will be here, that we might be able to make wise decisions and make decisions that will be good for our community. Father, we're grateful for the place that we have to live, and we're so grateful for the good people who live amongst us, and we ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome all those that are here, and this probably the most fun you ever have is coming on these meetings. Mariana, do you want to give us a roll call?
Sure. Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Chambers.
Here.
Councilmember C. Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember E. Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Reeser.
Here.
And Council President Walker.
Here. Item number 3, we have to welcome some new employees from the police department, Tawny Sims and Carson Proctor. Tawny, would you like to come up to the front here and tell us a little bit about yourself? And Carson, if you'll just come up next, that'd be great.
Hey, well, my name is Tawny Sims. I moved here from Alaska about 3 months ago, and I'm recently married, and we're here for my husband's schooling. He's going to nursing school. In Alaska, I was a firefighter EMT for 3 years, and I was born here in Idaho Falls, and then was raised in Oklahoma, and before Alaska, just bounced around from a few states. So,
Perfect, thank you. Welcome.
thank you.
Kind of in my heartstrings. That's what in my former life was a firefighter paramedic, so.
Hello, my name is Carson Proctor. I was born in Pocatello, grew up my whole life basically in Rexburg, graduated high school here in 21, and been here ever since, and I'm just super excited that I have the opportunity to be an officer. So, I don't quite have the experience like Tawny did of being an EMT and a firefighter, but I'm glad I get to have this experience of being a police officer.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. This time we'll ask City Attorney Stephen Zollinger to come up and lead them in the, swear him in with the oath of office.
I'm gonna let you just follow along.
Here, trade me, Proctor. You take the harder one. Tommy, you take this one. You can just follow along. You both raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, say your name,
I, Carson David Proctor,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Idaho,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Idaho,
the ordinances of the City of Rexburg,
the ordinances of the City of Rexburg,
and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
I will endeavor to enforce these laws
I will endeavor to enforce these laws
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my abilities,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and
and I will faithfully discharge
all of the duties assigned
all of the duties assigned
or requested of me
or requested of me
in my capacity as a law enforcement officer for the City of Rexburg.
in my capacity of a law enforcement officer for the City of Rexburg.
Congratulations. I need you to sign.
Oh, here's a pen too.
All right, sign the one you're holding, and then you can hang on to that one.
That's probably the first time you ever caught anything other than catching cold, isn't it?
And sign one of these for the record, or for the file. Is that,
No, that's Carson's.
Carson's, sign that one. Sign that one, Carson.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. That is yours to keep, and that is yours to keep. The pens belong to the people who threw them at me.
Thank you, and congratulations, and welcome again. This time on our agenda, we have a time for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, talk about anything that is not on our agenda, you're welcome to come up and state your name and address. And nobody, everybody, do we have anybody online?
We do have one person online, however, no questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on right to our staff reports. Public Works Director Keith Davidson, you're up.
Thank you, Council President Walker. So we just have one item, business to take care of tonight. So we received bids. This is for our street painting, so this is doing the crosswalks, the arrows. We've been hiring that out the past couple of years. And so the last time we bid it out for 2 years. This one, we opted to go for 4 years on this. And Idaho Traffic Safety was the only one that gave us a bid on it. They're the ones that have done it for us in the past. We did have some other companies pick up plans, but they opted not to give us a bid on it. So we're recommending award to Idaho Traffic Safety for those 4 years. Is there any questions?
Do you have any questions for Keith?
I have a question. And will the bike lanes be included in this too?
So that's not in this bid. We contract out with Idaho Traffic Safety because they're the only ones that have a paint truck, and they're the ones that will do the bike lanes, and we do that every year with that. So, yeah.
I just feel like they've done a good job in the past, and I think this would be good. So if there's no other question, I'll so move.
Okay, did I hear? So Councilmember Colin Erickson has made a motion that we accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Chambers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right.
Anybody else have anything else for Keith? So when do you leave on vacation?
So Friday.
Friday.
Yeah, I fly out Friday, and then I'll be back on that, not the following Tuesday, but the one after that. So
Well, we hope you get a sunburn. So.
yes, that would be fun. Yeah, the 16th. So
Okay, enjoy your time.
thanks.
I have something, but I don't know when. It's not for you, but I just don't want to forget.
Oh,
So can I say it now?
Sure.
I had a resident contact me this week, and they said that they were at Eagle Park, and there was a fire left unattended there. And they were just talking about how there's a lot of garbage and things there. So I just didn't know what the next move would be for that. I don't know if anyone has any ideas. So he said he put the fire out.
I spoke with the Parks Department this morning about their schedule, and as they start bringing people on, they have a list of areas that need attention. So I'm gonna meet with them tomorrow, to talk about the river trails. So I will mention to them that Eagle Park needs to, I'm guessing it's already on their list, but if it's not, I'll get it on their list to just clean up some of the dead wood and the debris.
Okay.
So that we don't have any risks over there.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So at this time, you go to the mayor's business. I'm not the mayor, but he does have some business. We got 2 proclamations we need to read. First, I'd like to invite Mrs. Jana Vosika, is that right? She's part of the, she is with the Daughters of the American Revolution. And she wants to just tell us a little bit about what this proclamation that we're going to read is Year of the Military Caregiver in Idaho. So, I come up and just.
I'd like to thank the council for the few minutes that you're giving me to talk about this project. The Year of the Military Caregiver is part of a project by our state regent, Janice Beller, in conjunction with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. It is to make sure that we are adequately supporting the caregivers of wounded sailors, soldiers, and airmen that have fought in battle and have come home with either PTSD or physical injuries. And the caregiver is the one that is spending their life now dedicated to that injured soldier, sailor, or airman. What we want to do in this next 2 years is to find all the resources that we can that is in the position to help with the caregiver of this wounded warrior, and that we also provide what services we can as DAR in helping with this project to make sure we have all the resources gathered up. And I mentioned that we were talking, we're cooperating with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. This is a national foundation, and if you remember Elizabeth Dole, Robert Dole was severely injured in war, and it's become Elizabeth Dole's passion to make sure all the caregivers in this country are supported in their care of their loved ones. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do you have any questions? There's some information that she gave us that's on your thing here, so.
Well, thank you for your support.
Excuse me, do we have an active chapter of the DAR here?
Oh, absolutely. It's Old Fort Hall chapter. And we are technically the Idaho Falls chapter, but we have members from Rexburg, Rigby, Ashton, Teutonia, Blackfoot. And yes, we're a very active chapter, particularly when it comes to Veterans Affairs. The motto, what DAR traditionally supports is education, patriotism, and historic preservation. So our chapter is particularly involved in all sorts of veterans activities and support.
Great, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This time I'd ask Councilmember Johnson if she'll read the proclamation for us.
Okay. So it's proclamation number 2024-02 in support of Rexburg's military caregivers in collaboration with Idaho's, do you say it DAR or DAR? Sorry. Okay, DAR and Hidden Heroes. Whereas the series of wars and conflicts in which our nation has been engaged over time since World War II has resulted in 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers who are parents, spouses, siblings, and friends caring for those wounded, ill, or injured who have served our nation, as documented by the 2014 RAND study commissioned by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And whereas the daily tasks of these military and veteran caregivers can include bathing, feeding, dressing, and caring for the injuries of wounded warriors, administering medications, providing emotional support, caring for the family and the home, and working outside the home to earn essential income, And whereas the nation provides multifaceted support to our wounded, ill, and injured veterans and service members through public, private, and philanthropic resources, but their caregivers receive little support or acknowledgement. And whereas most military and veteran caregivers consider the challenging work they do as simply carrying out their civic and patriotic duty without realizing they are, in fact, caregivers and do not identify themselves as such. And whereas an alarming number of military and veteran caregivers, according to research, are suffering numerous debilitating mental, physical, and emotional effects as a result of their caregiving duties. And whereas the city of Rexburg desires to recognize and support those who are serving in those vital roles in our own community, now therefore be it resolved that city of Rexburg announces its support of military and veteran caregivers in our communities. That city of Rexburg seeks to identify military and veteran caregivers residing in our communities and determine the unique challenges they face. That city of Rexburg will work to ensure that our government, organizations, employers, and nonprofits are aware of the unique challenges of military and veteran caregivers and are encouraged to create supportive environments and opportunities for assistance. That city of Rexburg encourages all who care for and support veterans and service members to extend that support to their caregivers. That city of Rexburg shall designate a point of contact for our community, for citizens and organizations wanting to offer support and caregivers seeking that support. That city of Rexburg uses the Elizabeth Dole Foundation's Military Caregiver Experience Map to understand the state of the military caregiver journey and use it as a tool to encourage community understanding and support. That city of Rexburg shall work in concert with the Idaho State Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, to execute these tasks, thereby ensuring Idaho's military caregivers are identified, acknowledged for their service, and supported wherever possible. Adopted by the city of Rexburg, state of Idaho, on this 3rd day of April 2024.
Okay. Do I hear any motion, anybody like to do a motion to accept this proclamation?
I'll make that motion that we
Adopt it?
adopt this proclamation.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember E. Erickson. I have a second.
I'll second.
Seconded by C. Erickson. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. It's done. Okay, our next one is proclamation number 24-03, the Fair Housing Month, April 2024. And I've asked Councilmember Chambers if you'd read this for us.
Thank you. Proclamation number 2024-03. April is Fair Housing Month. Whereas April 2024 marks the 56th anniversary of the passage of Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, commonly known as the Federal Fair Housing Act, and whereas the Idaho Human Rights Commission Act has prohibited discrimination in housing since 1969, and whereas equal opportunity for all, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin, is a fundamental goal of our nation, state, and city. And whereas equal access to housing is an important component of this goal, as fundamental as the right to equal education and employment. And whereas housing is a critical component of family and community health and stability. And whereas housing choice impacts our children's access to education, our ability to seek and retain employment options, the cultural benefits we enjoy, the extent of our exposure to crime and drugs, and the quality of health care we receive in emergencies. And whereas the laws of this nation and our state seek to ensure such equality of choice for all transactions involving housing, and whereas ongoing education, outreach, and monitoring are key to raising awareness of fair housing principles, practices, rights, and responsibilities. And whereas only through continued cooperation, commitment, and support of all Idahoans can barriers to fair housing be removed. Now therefore I, Jerry Merrill, Mayor of Rexburg, do hereby proclaim April 2024 to be Fair Housing Month in the city of Rexburg, Idaho, adopted by the City of Rexburg, State of Idaho, on this third day of April, 2024.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to adopt this proclamation.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt proclamation number 2024-03.
Okay, a motion made by Councilmember Chambers. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Reeser. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's adopted. Okay, now we'll go to item 7A, which is our city staff recommendation to approve an amendment for ordinance number 810, parade and public assembly, to prohibit personal property placed in the public right-of-way until 6 p.m. the day prior to an event and designate area of park facility reservation. Mr. Davidson, I guess you're on that.
Back up again. The first part of it, we're just recommending that we make it 6 p.m. the day before. That way city crews can get the work done that they need to in preparation for these different events and not having chairs and other things in the way as we're cleaning the streets or mowing the grass in preparation for these parade events. So is there any questions on that part or comments?
Was there a discussion of, I mean, it's six PM? I mean, I'd just as soon make it midnight.
I can go for that too. So we're just trying to run it out because I mean I think business owners might want to weigh in too. I don't know, but definitely I think as we push that further out, it's better for our crews, at least on the cleanup side or preparation side for the event. So, but this is open for council.
Question: what takes place? I mean, how is this going to be policed?
Mr. Zollinger, I think, is going to.
Our parks people
Yeah.
last year picked it up and took it over to the Parks building. People were allowed to come and retrieve it if they wanted it. So I would anticipate the same type of an approach. They will simply drive down the street with their trailer and they'll load it on before they go mow or sprinkle.
And
I anticipate that with 1 or 2 years under our belt, it will become effective.
yeah, and there will be signs up, right? Like explaining to people that they can't put it there till 6 p.m. Like
So I think some of the thoughts were like pushing it out on social media with that, using the sign at the end of Main Street, putting things on that sign to kind of help push that out. But are you thinking like trying to put up A-frame signs down the street?
Yeah,
in those
I mean, I
areas?
don't know if that's realistic, but I don't know if everyone will get that message. And then it will be like last year when they were so angry that all their stuff got taken over there and some of it got lost, right? And did they?
Lost is a very kind word for someone who took it.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, so then they were really unhappy. And I know the 6 p.m. still sounds early, but I feel like we've talked about this for the last several years, and that was like the middle ground that we came to because so many people, that's like their tradition and they're really into it. But then we had those other things to consider, so I think 6 p.m. probably is like a middle ground for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely works for our departments.
Yeah.
Because we're generally done and out of there by then. So.
But I think we need to
Was
make sure
this
people
not
know.
adopted last year? I mean,
We talked about it,
What-
but we didn't adopt
what
it.
caused the issues last year? Why did we remove them if this was not in place?
Yeah, well, that was the question. Nobody knew, and so they were all really upset. So we had to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Last year, we actually did put out signs. They did not remove anything that was not in front of a sign.
Oh,
Park
I didn't
department
realize
did
that.
Go out and put up 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper on wooden lat.
And they still put them out.
No placing chairs or property here prior to 6 p.m. I don't remember exactly when we had it set for.
Yeah, I can't
We
either.
made sure that they only picked up the chairs where the signs had been.
So the signs didn't even help
The
then.
signs were less than effective.
That's too bad. Okay.
That's
All
what I'm
right.
saying. I think it'll take a year or two.
Yeah.
We will be a little more vigilant about, once we collect it, we may put it inside the fence and tell people they can come collect it during hours. Last year, we simply put it out we put it out on the public right of way in violation of our own rules. And, let people
was like
drive
a-
up and take it.
Free yard sale.
And I know, I'm reasonably confident my wife upgraded our chairs.
Okay, all right.
Any other comments on this portion? We'll move to the next, because it's all in the same ordinance, but
I think we-
I just figure if we tackle it one at
I
a
think if we also, mention the mayor when he gets back about putting in his newsletter going out to everything we can get out to the public to make sure of this. I think it's a great thing. I mean, I go down to my daughter's place down in Utah, and they're setting chairs out almost 2 weeks in advance, and it just looks so junky and just cluttery for those 2 weeks, and I think this is a good thing. And I know the 6 o'clock was the kind of the getting down to where the workers are done with their work, let them do their job, and then they could do it after that. So I don't have no problem with 12 o'clock, but that's what kind of settled that to 6, so.
Can we use that sign that they use down by across the street from the Muni, down by Evergreen Park? I wanted to say that, the roads are going to be closed. Is that the police department?
I wonder, the police department has a reader board.
Yeah.
We've got one in the street department. So definitely we could look at putting reader boards out as well. I think that's a great idea.
Good idea.
Good. Okay, go on with the rest of it.
So then the second half of the thing is we were looking at the different shelters, and when people rent the shelters, what space should go with those shelters when they rent. So some of them we've put kind of close to the shelters. Other ones we've expanded a little bit further out. Probably the one that's the most difficult one, or the one that probably needs the most room, as we get into Porter and we get into some of those bigger shelters, but primarily the stage, the Beehive Pavilion stage. We felt like having a map that kind of shows, here's, when you rent this facility and you reserve this facility, this is the area that kind of comes with that. So it kind of helps delineate that, so they know this is the area that you get a kind of control with that reservation. And so that's what we were looking at, is just trying to clarify that in the ordinance. So when people come and reserve a facility in the park, they'll know what kind of comes with that. And so this was our first shot. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it and you're comfortable with those, or if we need to look at adjustments. We're definitely open. This was kind of our first shot in draft at kind of putting a little bit more definition on what that reservation comes with. So any...
Let me just clarify a little bit as well. We're not looking to create an enforcement option as much as we are looking to create a clarification. So if there becomes a conflict and someone who has rented the stage and reserved it, they're being interfered with their ability to use the stage and the
subsequent area,
then law enforcement will have a map they can look at and say, listen, we can assist you in maintaining control over this area, but we can't get involved in what is the remainder of the park. Even if they're having a loud volleyball game in another part of the park, that comes with being in a public park. And so we felt like there just needed to be some delineation that gives the law enforcement a better parameter for knowing what they can and cannot assist these groups in if they become a conflict.
we also felt like when they reserve and we put it out on that pavilion, having that map with it kind of helps with them know that, hey, okay, hey, and they can show people as well, so.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job on designating the areas. I looked at it yesterday and it was, they've done a good job, so. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion if somebody wants to.
I can make that motion that we approve ordinance number 1310.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember C. Erickson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that one passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
I think that's just first read.
Oh, first read, that's right, it's got to be three read, okay, 3 times read. Mr. Parkinson. Planning and zoning recommendation to approve a rezone from public facilities to low-density residential at 245 Rodney Drive, which is short for Rotary Park, right?
Correct. President Walker, thank you, council members. This was presented to planning and zoning as a rezone from public facilities to LDR2 with the intent to eventually split these lots and sell them and then move. I don't know if the proceeds or what are moving to the new park, but they are shifting this so that they can help develop the new Teton River Park. They recommended it to you for approval, I think with a unanimous vote, and I would entertain any questions that you have at this point.
I have some questions. So I read in the packet and have been contacted by the residents that aren't happy with losing their park. And so I guess what I would like to know is who makes that decision? Because at this point, it's already like really far in motion. So I was just wondering who made that decision. I haven't heard about it for 5 years. And I know 5 years ago, the city initiated that discussion with Rotary Park.
5 years ago?
Well, that was the first time I heard about it, was right after I got on the council for the first time.
Yeah, the way that there's a parks committee that meets and discusses various issues that come up in all of the parks. One of the things that was looked at here is this park, if it were presented to us today, we wouldn't accept it because it doesn't meet the criteria for what we would use for determining where to manage new parks. So as the new park was beginning to develop, we took a look at this park. It's an underutilized and undermanaged park. It is, if you pull up the GIS, what you'll see is that there are 3 or more parks. There's really 5 parks within a half a mile of this, all that have the same or better amenities than this park. And so it's become a management and maintenance concern and question. I think it's down to nothing more than a swing set now, whereas the parks within 1,000 feet of it in 2 different directions both have children's playground sets that are newer, more functional. And so in the discussion, it was just simply determined that we could make better use of the time and the manpower and the funds by selling this off and converting the funds over to other amenities in the more efficient parks. But it took place during the conversations on a weekly basis over several months. It took us probably 4 or 5 months to get the Rotary Club to meet with us and determine that they would be willing to let their ownership interest in this land be converted over to the new park. They selected the new park as an area where they would like to have their proceeds go to. The bouldering feature, I think, is what they agreed to in the end.
And so then if it was like, I just want to make sure I understand. So I know this isn't going to happen, but say like Evergreen Park or Park Street Park, if city staff decided they had an interest in getting rid of that park, would the council hear about that before we were to this point that we're at now?
I think Evergreen Park, yes, you would. Probably Park Street, because it's a newer park that we made a conscious decision to go against our parameters. If we had any more of these small, unmaintained parks, there's been nothing but lawn mowing going on at this park for the last 15 years. The Rotarians had stopped putting money into it, and there was no additional amenities that were being created. And we were reaching a point where the swing set was going to have to be replaced. And rather than spend money on a park that did not meet our minimum standards, I'm on the committee, and I can tell you the conversation I was privy to, we simply decided it would be better energy spent, given the proximity of the other parks that have new equipment, to transfer those funds to the new park. I guess we neglected to bring it to you, other than it just was a park that nobody had even mentioned in 15 years.
So what would happen if they took a part of that new park and put like a small children area?
That'll be completely up to the council. As you recall, as we build new parks, we always the council gets involved in determining what features go into those parks. The new park has been definitively designed to this point, but I'm sure there is a space somewhere if we felt like we needed some children's playground equipment. We could certainly take a look at that. Before we went that route, I'd say we probably want to look at the proximity of the other parks. So Hidden Valley has a children's play set. Smith Park has a children's play set. There is a private park that is associated with the Mill Hollow Trailer Park, but it is required under the conditions of their existence that it be maintained and kept open to the public. So anybody who wants to use that one can, as a condition of them having the trailer park where it's at. And so before you drop another, $50,000 into another children's play set, we want to make sure that it's consistent with what we want. We then also have the quad that has been discussed, that the next children's play set we may want to place might be somewhere in that, not out by the road. Get away from the road, Alan. But somewhere, where the pickleball's going to go, or in that area, right there between the football field, yes, kind of back in there where it used to be. There used to be a children's play set in there. And so as the high school has transitioned over to their new facilities, or is planning to transition to their new facilities, there may be an opportunity to incorporate a playground back into that open space there. That would be probably something worth considering before we put it over. The problem with the new park is it has a stream of water running
Right
down
through it.
It might not be the best indicator for a children's playground.
Yeah,
It's true.
I agree. Okay, so sorry, I have a lot to say about this. I just have one more thing. So a few years ago, we were meeting quarterly as a Parks Oversight Committee. And so I feel like we did have a lot of input on like the new park, for example. But I know now, I know Councilmember Erickson is the liaison, but those meetings are at a time when I can't attend. So I've asked if they could be moved, and I know they can't, so I understand that. But then our Parks Oversight Committee isn't meeting, and I know that I think John Lewis is going to be over that now, but I guess I'm having a little trouble getting it off the ground because I feel like maybe we would benefit from being more involved, because by the time we see the new park, you're already going to have spent hours on that plan. So then if we say, oh, I would like to see this different, then that makes everybody really angry. So I feel like we should be seeing those things quarterly, at least in a council meeting, so that we actually can give input before it's too far advanced for us to give any input. So I don't know how to get to that point because I've asked a lot of times.
I think what we would probably do is we will emphasize a little more dramatically the term liaison, and we will ask Councilmember Erickson, Erickson, to make sure that as things change, that he gets Deborah or Matt to push them out to the council as a whole in a timely manner, because it certainly hasn't been an effort on our part to hide anything from you. I guess from my perspective, I assumed you were getting copied, you just weren't coming to the meeting, and that you were getting copied on those various iterations that were coming back to us from the alphabet group that I can never remember,
MGB.
MGBA. I just show up for the meeting and I review it in the meetings, and so I apologize if that hasn't been getting back to the whole.
So, Stephen, what we can do on this also is have it under staff report quarterly.
Yeah, I think that would be
I
amazing.
think that's fine, just put them on the rotation.
Going to be taking over, that's great.
And then we could give input.
And part of this is probably my fault, because I've been attending those
That's
meetings.
exactly what I said.
Yeah. I've been attending those meetings at least twice a month, and I've not been very good about, I guess I just didn't understand my role there. But I will going forward, because I can certainly bring those reports to our meetings on that monthly basis when we report those meetings. Now, that meeting is not a citizens driven meeting. That is staff,
Right.
Parks and Rec.
Certainly not close the door to anyone who want to come in, but we're not asking for input at those meetings.
No, we need to have our Parks Advisory Committee up and going again. And so somehow we've got to get to that point
Yeah.
where we can
Right.
because then we can have buy-in from our residents that are on that committee. And I felt like that was really helpful when we were doing that before.
I do want to make sure that the council is aware, we did meet with this neighborhood and have a public hearing, and we discussed with them the proposal to decommission this park and use the money towards the river park. It may not have been a real focused meeting on park, because Keith happened to show up, and Keith is what do they call that, steel rod on a roof? A
Lightning rod.
Keith has a tendency to take meetings in the wrong direction, but the meeting was specifically to discuss this park being decommissioned, and we felt like we gave the neighbors a pretty good opportunity to be heard, and we tried to explain to them why we were decommissioning this park.
Okay, thank you. So I'll entertain a motion on this ordinance.
I'll make that motion. I move that we adopt ordinance number 1331.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Isn't it 1311?
Or 1311, what did I say? 1331?
Yeah.
1311, sorry.
motion by Councilmember E. Erickson, seconded by Councilmember Chambers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance passes. And first read, right, Stephen?
Yeah, it's got to be first.
First read.
There's no rush on any of these.
Right.
We anticipate, moving forward with the river park, independent of whether these lots get sold or not.
Okay. Number C, planning and zoning recommendation to approve rezone of mixed use to community business park of 1022 West Main Street. Alan, you're up again.
Deborah's pulling up our information.
This is the ground just on the west side of the,
The Erickson property
West.
is on the west side of Highway 20. Let's pull up the map and show them right where it's at. I can do that if you want, or they like to see the live. So I just wanted to pull up the GIS so you could see it. This concerns these two parcels right here. Comp plan currently is commercial, so it does support changing the zone from mixed use to commercial business center, community business center. The developer has had requests to put commercial in there without the residential, and that's why he is asking for this change. We think it fits along that highway, both Highway 20 and with the Highway 33, our main street. It just fits in this neighborhood. Planning and zoning also recommended this to you for approval.
any questions for Alan?
Do you have a
ahead.
question?
Go
Oh,
ahead.
I just need a little help remembering. I just get so mixed up. Mixed use has residential.
Correct.
And
They have to
CVC
have
does not.
10% of residential or commercial with whatever they build. This one will take that portion of it out and make it strictly commercial.
Okay.
So they would not be able to put residential in there.
So I just have, and this is probably, I know this is land use is what all we're talking about right now. But I'm concerned about the access to that piece of property with the new,
Diverging Diamonds.
yeah, the Divergent Diamonds and the proximity to the off-ramp. That would be, well, I think Liberty GMC has an access, but my understanding is with that Divergent Diamond, you won't be able to get to that.
The developer's already working with the State Department for accesses. They do have access onto this property. They're also looking for a second exit. They're working on that. So in the development, they will have a second one.
Yeah.
That will come out onto 12th West.
Yeah, and that's the concern I've got, is that the access has got to come west.
Correct.
To 12th West.
Yeah, and I believe with the Diverging Diamond, I'm not 100% sure, but they'll probably have a right-in, right-out only coming down Main Street. And then they would have to have access to 12th to get back in. Because even the development to the west of it has a right-in, right-out only. The Rexburg West subdivision where Dr. Fulmer's office is.
Yeah.
So we're assuming that's going to be the same thing all the way through.
And then there's going to have to be some cooperation between landowners there, because there is, I mean, the developer or the owner of these properties does not have access unless it's through other properties, correct?
Yes.
To the west.
And they are in talks. They are working together right now to work through those issues.
Okay.
And it's something that we would require. Keith from Public Works would probably require that same thing, to have that second access. Fire would probably require it also. But those are things we would review in the process of platting and getting that ready before it would ever go to development.
Sure.
I probably should clarify. We have a master plan. We have a traffic plan that we are working towards. I don't know, based on our conversation yesterday, I'm not sure that the venture group or whoever the developer is here and Mr. Nybar's group have actually made contact yet. But we have met with both sides, and we are moving them towards, at some point, they will comply with our plan, where their growth will be stopped. But as for right now, this annexation, or this zone change that you're being asked for, we've been given every assurance that the state and the developer have an interim solution that will allow for adequate access until such time as further growth occurs. And by then, we anticipate we will have the access out to the northwest zone.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I've got another question about that out there, but I guess this is not the time or place, so. I'm concerned about that island of property out there that is not in the city. It's surrounded by city. At some point, that's gonna have to be, because the access to this property is gonna have to come through that property, at least in some point. And without it being part of the city, there's nothing we can do about it.
We are not in a position to forcibly annex, well,
They're an island.
They're a complete island.
Yeah, they're a complete island. We have the property to the west of it.
we have the property to the north.
Yes.
We have everything to the trailer park except these. So you're a complete island.
Well, then, again, it's your fault.
It's not my fault. But it is a concern.
We have a long-standing history of not taking people's property against their will.
Yeah.
But we certainly have a legal authority to annex them when the time becomes necessary.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think we'll get there. The property owners on both sides, the owner of this island recognizes the necessity of that property being incorporated into the overall development. And our last meeting with him, he was more than amenable to the solutions that we were proposing. We simply did not get an opportunity yet to marry our concept to the venture. Is it Venture Properties that's developing this, Ron? Venture Builders developer. It's a matter of timing, and we believe we can bring the property owners together.
Okay.
There's some stuff happening with the state and the current owners of the island that they will probably end up having to move their office. And if they move it and build a new office, because they won't be able to retain the trailer, then they will be connecting to city sewer and water, and then that would require them to annex into the city. So if they reach that point, that is something that could trigger that also.
Well, I certainly support the land use, the change in the land use. I'm just concerned about the overall connectivity of all that out there, particularly with that island.
I do know the state's very aware of looking at this property, and they've talked about, I was down there just even yesterday in the planning, and they're definitely aware of this. They have already looked at, try to do the best way they can with that diversion diamond.
Okay, any more comments or questions? So I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make the motion that we approve ordinance number 1312 and consider it first read.
Do I have a second? Let's see. Yeah. Motion by Councilmember Chambers to approve this ordinance. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Colin Erickson. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Our next one is 8A tabled. We want to leave that tabled. We don't have any more information on that, do we, on the partnership for the ice rink?
We met again with the developer, and we think he's just fine tuning things at this point.
So maybe at our next meeting, right?
On the location. Oh, and apparently he sent his revisions today. I just didn't get to them yet.
Okay.
So it'll be your next meeting probably.
Okay, we'll leave that tabled then. We have no second readings or third readings. Brings us to our consent calendar, which is approval of the minutes and approve the bills, and also our new on-premises beer and wine license for the Cafe Sabor, 155 West 2nd South.
Mr. Council President Walker, why does that show up on the consent calendar, that particular item?
That's Deborah. That's what it's always been, right?
So it's either a yes or no. You know, they're all separate action items. We just do it during one. So you can approve it or you can dispute it.
Okay. Okay.
I have a motion on the consent calendar for those three things.
I'll make that motion.
Okay? Motion made by Colin Erickson. Do I have a second?
She has some.
I have a question on one of those, and I don't know where it's first time coming to a council meeting, so I don't know where my input should be given.
The legal counsel just stepped out.
Now, on one of the consent items,
The beer and wine license, I'm assuming?
on B, yep, that's the one I have a thing to bring up.
Then we'll find out what we can do here. It's not for public comment, I don't think, is it? On the, she had a question on the B of the consent calendar, on the beer license, beer and wine license for Cafe Sabor.
The reason it's on your consent, anyone can ask to pull it off the consent calendar, but the reason it's on your consent calendar is because it's an annual recurring event that happens.
She has the question.
This is a new one.
Oh.
Okay, so what's the question?
Question, she had a question down there. Can we entertain her question?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you want to.
Okay, my question is, Hemming Village is a family-centered activity place.
Can we have her come up?
I can,
And
come up and
introduce her
state your
and
name and
address.
address, please.
Name is Gail Hawks, H-A-U-X. I live at 600 Taurus Drive in Rexburg. And I see this, the new Cafe Sabor wants to have a beer and wine license. And Hemming Village is a family community gathering place. They host Hocus Pocus every year, and they do the Nativity every year, and there is lots and lots and lots of children that attend these events. And I really question the wisdom of allowing a restaurant in this area that is going to have beer and wine served, and where there are going to be lots of children that come to these events. And I know they could be considering more events in the future, and I really just think that we should double check and really consider this motion before we do this, because once we open up an alcohol place in a community servicing area with lots of children, it can potentially open up a lot of problems, and that's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Can we even, what happens if we deny it, I guess?
You can't deny it on that basis. We have
That's what I thought.
a set of parameters that we regulate beer and wine licenses on. Proximity to a social gathering area is not one of them. And this particular property meets all of the restrictions for separation from areas that are protected areas. Certainly, an issue that we will be vigilant about. Restaurants that serve beer and wine do not historically create opportunities for young people. Grocery stores and convenience stores are far more likely to create a problem for young people having access to alcohol than a restaurant. Restaurants that sell beer and wine distribute it under a very controlled circumstances, which is why the statute does not allow us to discriminate based on social or personal preference.
Thank you for that clarification.
Can I clarify? I'm not worried about access. I'm worried about people who consume it and their behavior that can come with that, and that's my concern. I know that the restaurant industry does a really good job of trying to control access, but my concern is the behaviors that come out.
And I think we legally cannot.
Again, those are social agendas cannot be regulated under these circumstances. I'm every bit as big a jerk as most people coming out of a restaurant, and I never drink.
So just a question, there are other restaurants that have beer and wine licenses in Rexburg, correct?
There are. There's
Yeah,
a number of
Applebee's.
places in the city that have beer and wine licenses. Your golf course has beer and wine licenses.
Yeah. Applebee's,
Yeah.
Frisco's.
Fresco's has a beer and wine license. There are a number of places in the city that serve beer and wine on premise. And as I said, they're probably less likely to allow disorderly people to leave their premises than a stadium would be.
And I think if we look over the law enforcement, we have not had calls on disruption of that from those restaurants in the city, those three that, or four that we have. So we have not had it in the past, since I've been there and seen what's happened. So I haven't seen that. I mean, it could be, there are definitely some concerns,
You
but.
can take comfort in knowing that if an area that, if a restaurant, if an entity that has a beer and wine license becomes a nuisance area, the city has the ability and the right then to revoke. We just can't withhold on the theory that people might behave badly because they have access to alcohol.
Okay.
And one other question, I do know that the state monitors that very closely. They come in with the ISP and check that quite regularly to make sure they're serving the proper ages. So we can't concerned about that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Consent passes. Is there anything else for the council? I have one thing. Debbie mailed out the agenda for the drive around. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it. If you have anything you want to add or change, just let me know and we'll get it worked out. We'd like to have it finalized by today if we can.
Are we gonna make a loop out through past the temple site.
Yes.
She'll see where the the sewer.
Yes, we're going to go out to Moody, Fifth West, and then we'll just go up, while we're out there, we'll just go up that way, so.
In looking at that, I think is a great, well, we're gonna go around to almost the whole city in a good loop and see some major concern areas and what growth areas there. So I looked at Mike, or Mr. Walker, and I thought it was very good, and very well put out. Great.
We'll start at the police department, have breakfast at the police department, and we'll go from there. So, okay?
Then it's gonna be about one.
We should be there about one or two or so.
While we've been in the meeting, I've been informed that, in response to your question about Eagle Park, there is a scheduled community cleanup for Eagle Park on May 13th at 5 p.m.
Yeah, I helped organize that. So thank you. I wanted to know about the fire, the unattended fire. That was what the resident had the big concern about.
We get a lot of people who leave their fires down there. If we can catch them, we address it, but it's not easy. In fact, we've
Yeah.
chased people on more than one occasion trying to catch them, and
Okay.
Officer Allen's got to learn to run faster.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
I make a motion that we get our clock fixed.
I think we're ready to do it.
I think you and I can take that on.